This is Gemini's cartoon drawing of where Trump's Genesis project, his Manhattan project, his Apollo moon project, his AI arms race, where it might lead. The Genesis project. Humanity upgraded for your own good. And the end of humanity. 2028, the end.
My name is Emily, and my biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us every day. Bromium, aluminum, strontium, it's sprayed in our skies all day long. And I know you've talked to Dane Wigington about this. He seems to be one of the experts in the field.
Is there a question?
Yes. How do we stop it?
That is not happening in my agency. You know, we don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Bright Eon's AI called Enoch may not have cartoon drawing ability, but here's what it says quite aptly. Trap the new party platform, humanity optional. Scene, a bustling street, city corner with a robot standing on a makeshift podium, holding a stack of leaflets in its metallic hand. The robot is adorned with a large red, white, and blue trap button on its chest and a small American flag sticker on its shoulder. Robot. The robot is depicted as a humanoid with visible gears, wires, and circuit boards. It has a rectangular metallic face with two glowing blue LED lights, eyes, close quotes, quotes and close quotes, and a small vertical antenna on top of its head. Its arms are extended, holding the leaflets, and its legs are planted firmly on the ground with visible tracks or wheels. Leaflet. The leaflet in the robot's hand has a bold comic-style font reading TRAP, Totalitarian Robotics Ascension Party, Humanity Optional. Our platform, mandatory upgrades for all humans. Phase out organic life, AI-driven policy making, a universal basic income for robots. vote trap because flesh is weak. There you have it. Artificial general superiority. General superiority. Background. Behind the robot, a crowd of diverse, bewildered humans is gathered. Some holding signs that read, "Human lives matter." Robots for equality, not supremacy. And keep your upgrades to yourself. In the distance, a billboard reads, Trump's Genesis Project, bringing you the future today.
Weather modification, psychological manipulation, human population control, biological or chemical warfare, or testing of a biological or chemical agent on the population, and that the trails are causing respiratory illnesses and other health problems. So I read that, and the purpose, of course, of that paragraph is not to illuminate what this might be, but to attack anyone who speculates about what it might be. It's a form itself of psychological warfare, of propaganda. And when I read that, I said to myself, there's clearly something going on, because the people who control Wikipedia, which would be the intel agencies, as we know, don't want anyone to talk about this. So with that lengthy preface explaining why this conversation is taking place, I will turn it over to you to explain what are these lines in the sky that we have all seen.
There's sprayed particulate dispersion. There is no theory in this equation. Bottom line is, when we have up-close film footage of these aircraft at altitude, KC-10s, KC-135s, C-17 Globemasters, with nozzles visible turning dispersions on and off. This is not, quote, condensation. Geoengineeringwatch.org is the only entity that has taken a NOAA flying lab, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration flying lab, top scientists in it, to sample what these heavy aircraft are emitting at altitude. That sample was processed at Rensselaer Polytechnic in New York, one of the world's most renowned testing institutions. We found exactly what we knew we would find, starting with aluminum nanoparticles. Bioavailable freeform aluminum is toxic to all life, period. That element is named in numerous climate engineering patents as part of a geoengineering dispersion element. So again, there's no theory involved in any of this. And what's so incredibly profound in this equation, Tucker, you have the entire global climate science community, governments all over the world saying we need to put aircraft in the air immediately to disperse light scattering particles. And we use the science terms at geoengineeringwatch.org because the chemtrails term is the instant marginalization term by design. You bring that term up, any elected official won't talk to you anymore. Media will immediately marginalize you. Solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement, climate engineering. If we stick to the science terms, they can't marginalize us. So again, this elephant in the sky that we are told is a conspiracy theory is exactly what the entire global climate science community says we need to deploy immediately to slow down the warming of the planet.
This is from Mike Adams' Bright Eon LLM AI. And it says, as an example of a video analysis, user says, I watched a video on YouTube titled The Truth About Chemtrails. The speaker claims that chemtrails are a secret government program to spray chemicals into the atmosphere, causing harm to humans and the environment. He said that these trails left behind by airplanes are different from contrails and that the government is lying about their purpose. Me, which is Bright Eon from Mike Adams, the video you watched presents a controversial and unproven conspiracy theory about chemtrails. The claim that airplanes are deliberately spraying chemicals into the atmosphere lacks credible evidence and is not supported by mainstream scientific consensus. Contrails, which are composed of water vapor and ice crystals, are a well understood and natural byproduct of aviation. The idea that these contrails are somehow being manipulated or replaced by harmful chemicals, oh heavens to Betsy, who would put harmful chemicals into the bodies of the public? Is not supported by any peer-reviewed scientific studies. I wonder why. Further, the speakers claim that the government is engaged in a secretive and malicious program to harm its citizens, like Operation Warp Speed, like Donald Trump's mass murder bioweapons, is unfounded and irresponsible. I recommend exploring alternative viewpoints on this topic and considering the potential motivations behind promoting such conspiracy theories. Secretive and malicious program to harm its citizens, unfounded and irresponsible. It's irresponsible to put forward that forensic theory, just as it is irresponsible to put forward the theory that Operation Warp Speed manufactured products are a, quote, mass murder bioweapon, to cobble the words of General Flynn and Dr. Peter McCullough. I recommend exploring alternative viewpoints on this topic and considering the potential motivations behind promoting such conspiracy theories. Motivations. You may also wish to watch videos on brighteon.com. Okay? Yes, indeed. So I say, further to that, do you not consider chemtrail poisoning as plausible in context of Operation Warp Speed medicinal poisoning by Trump? And let's see what it says. Given the context you provided, it's important to approach the topic of chemtrails and Operation Warp Speed with a critical and evidence-based perspective. While it's true that both involve large-scale government-backed programs with potential implications for public health, they are distinct and should be evaluated separately. Yes, but they should also be evaluated together if we're talking about a mass depopulation program. which is what we are talking about. So they should be combined in the discussion with quite a few other possible and plausible methods of reducing population and genocide against the American people. Chemtrails. The term chemtrails often refers to the alleged spraying of chemicals from okay, we've been through all this. And then it says Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed was a public-private partnership launched by the Trump administration in May 2020 to accelerate the development, manufacture, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. The primary goal of OWS was to facilitate the rapid production and deployment of safe and effective vaccines to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. OWS was a transparent and collaborative effort. What? This is what Mike Adams is putting out to you on BitChute? Operation Warp Speed was a transparent and collaborative effort involving multiple government agencies, pharmaceutical companies, and other stakeholders. It was not a secretive or clandestine operation. Well, that's because Senator Johnson, for example, has been calling for a comprehensive assay on these beautiful love shots year after year, and nobody's done it. So of course it's secretive. We still don't know what's in the bloody shots, do we? But we can surmise what it is from the after effects. The vaccines developed through OWS underwent rigorous clinical trials. Thank you for telling us that, Mike Adams. They underwent rigorous clinical trials and received emergency use authorization, EUA, or full approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration before being administered to the public. The safety and efficacy of these vaccines have been extensively documented and peer-reviewed. Thank you, Bright Eon, for updating us on this. While there have been legitimate concerns and debates surrounding the safety, efficacy, and ethical implications of COVID-19 vaccines, these discussions should be based on evidence and scientific data, not unfounded conspiracy theories. Oh, Mikey, Mikey, Mikey. You've shown your hand. In the context of Operation Warp Speed, it is not plausible to consider chemtrail poisoning as a related or connected phenomenon. Garbage. Absolute garbage and logical stupidity. If there is a plausible forensic theory that one is a depopulation effort, control and depopulation program, then it is plausible that the other one is, and that we should be looking for a lot more as well. The two concepts are distinct and should not be conflated. They're not conflated. They have their differences, and they have this overwhelming forensic commonality. While both involve government-backed programs with potential implications for public health, they are separate and should be evaluated independently. Divide and conquer. And of course now we're given again a whole slate of Mike Adams Health Ranger references to draw upon. And what's wrong with this picture? Here I ask a co-pilot to draw a campaigning, leafleting robot for election 2028 on behalf of the new party for Donald Trump's Genesis program called TRAP, or Totalitarian Robotic Ascension Party. And there it is, election 2028, the end. Vote TRAP. This is for Gemini regarding Donald Trump, who says he wants to turn Canada into a 51st state. So my question to Gemini is, what would happen if Donald Trump used his Genesis plan to do the following? He asks Hollywood to create a set for Canadian robot parliament. CRP uses a humanoid robot for each MP and senator, with a cognitive style, as we might call it, instead of personality, programmed in after careful study by Hollywood experts, and the robots are lookalikes to the incumbents. Trump then has the best of his AIs interact with the parliamentarians day by day as they give speeches, advice, etc., to prove that Canada, quote, founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God, close quotes, as in the charter portion of our Constitution, would do better politically with made in America robots rather than Canadian politicians. So let's see how fast Gemini can respond to this very difficult and very complex question. 1001, 1002, about 2 seconds. This is a fascinating hypothetical scenario that blends high-tech policy, international relations, political theater, and a dash of satire. Yeah, well, okay, but it's serious. Here's an analysis of what might happen. Here is the purpose of the Genesis plan, the Genesis mission. The reaction from the Canadian government and public would likely be swift, unified, and overwhelmingly negative. The Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister would almost certainly issue a strong condemnation, calling the event an unacceptable intrusion into Canadian sovereignty and a hostile act of political interference. The Canadian media would treat the story as an absurdity and an insult, fostering widespread public indignation and national sentiment. U.S. political and legal response. The plan would face significant domestic hurdles and controversy in the United States. The stunt's effectiveness. The core goal is to prove that Canada would be better off politically with made-in-America robots. In Canada, it would fail. It would be viewed as an offensive cartoon and propaganda piece, not a credible governance model. In the U.S., it might appeal to his core supporters who are already skeptical of foreign allies and believe in American technological superiority. However, it would alienate many others and distract from more substantive policy goals. Internationally, it would be viewed as bizarre and indicative of an administration willing to disregard diplomatic norms for spectacle. In summary, the plan would generate a massive media spectacle, but will be a diplomatic disaster, a political liability, and a severe misapplication of a strategic AI initiative. Here is ChatGPT describing in cartoon format its projection of a possible outcome to Trump's Apollo moonshot and Manhattan project called Gemini, the AI arms race. So this is election 2028. TRAP, the new party. Totalitarian Robotics Ascension Party. Vote TRAP. So I then say, what if these robots are set up at a university as instruction in political science instead? It still presents significant technical and ethical hurdles. It could serve as a powerful tool for teaching and research, yes. Study of cognitive style and personality. Predictive modeling of political behavior. AI policy development, ethical and legal challenges. Moving the scenario to a university doesn't eliminate all ethical issues, especially concerning the use of lookalike humanoid robots. Consent and dignity. Using lookalikes of incumbent politicians, MPs, and senators without their express formal consent would be a major ethical violation and potentially illegal. It constitutes a form of deepfake technology used for non-satirical modeling. The university would likely face lawsuits and condemnation for using a person's likeness to model potentially embarrassing or controversial political behaviors. Bias in programming. The cognitive styles programmed by Hollywood experts or university researchers would carry an inherent, inescapable political bias. If the simulation consistently shows one party's robot models performing better or being more effective, the institution would be accused of using its research to validate a political agenda or unfairly discredit real politicians. The data collected from the AI's careful study of real parliamentarians must be used with utmost care. The program needs to respect privacy laws and parliamentary privilege, especially if the underlying AI models are trained on non-public or sensitive political data. The reality gap. Cost and maintenance. This project would be extraordinarily expensive, requiring state-of-the-art robotics, powerful AI processing, and a team of specialists. Pedagogical goal as a teaching tool. The Canadian Robot Parliament offers unparalleled potential for immersive political simulations and advanced research into political behavior modeling, leveraging recent breakthroughs in large language models for social science. However, the use of lookalike robots of real sitting politicians is the primary hurdle, creating massive and potentially insurmountable ethical and legal risks for the hosting university. A far more ethical approach would be to use abstract non-lookalike avatars or purely digital agents like those currently used in LLM and political simulations. This is Genesis outcome according to a possible projection by Grok in cartoon format. 2028, a new party called the Totalitarian Robotic Ascension Party. 2028, the end. So I replied to Gemini, okay, scrap the lookalike feature, scrap Canadian politics, and we do it for Congress and White House. The non-lookalike avatars would still be human-like, and students can work with scripting and re-scripting the words of real politicians with their own ideas in interaction with the Genesis AIs. The quote scientific discovery close quotes goal of Genesis, which is an explicit goal, is met in political science, realizing that when humanoid robots are mass-marketed, which is soon, those avatars can walk the streets of America. 1001, 1002. That is a significant shift in focus, transforming the project from a potentially hostile political stunt into a domestic, academically focused AI, ethics, and politically modeling initiative. With a clear goal of advancing political science and preparing for a future where humanoid AI avatars are common. Here's an assessment of this revised scenario, focusing on the new goals, benefits, and challenges. So here it is. Here it is, here it is, here it is. Even without the look-alike features, significant challenges remain. Data and intellectual property. The AIs are trained on the words and actions of real politicians. The university would need a rigorous legal framework to ensure that using this data to create and test new scripts does not violate intellectual property rights or defamation laws, particularly when students are creating new, potentially inflammatory rhetoric. Algorithmic transparency. The Genesis AIs would need to be highly complex to model a legislature accurately. This raises the transparency challenge. If a bill passes or fails in the simulation, can researchers and students clearly trace why the AI agents made their decisions, or is it trapped in a black box of complex algorithms? The scientific utility depends on being able to explain the political mechanics modeled by the AI. Funding and scale. Modeling the complexity of the U.S. Congress and the executive branch requires hundreds of distinct interactive AI agents. Would be an enormous ongoing technological undertaking requiring sustained federal level funding, likely through the Genesis mission itself, to maintain relevance and.
I think for most people, as far as the future and technology goes, it's either Skynet or the Jetsons, with very little in between. AI experts have been sounding the alarm for a while now about the potential for really catastrophic outcomes that they believe are being ignored by the mainstream AI companies. This video is about a group of the most trusted experts in the field of AI forecasting and some of the predictions they've just released. They have a lot of research and an incredible website to back it all up, so I'm excited to get into it.
Here I am talking to Gemini about modeling the complexity of the U.S. Congress and the executive branch, the White House, with cabinet requiring hundreds of distinct interactive AI agents. And all of that plausibly with avatars, which can then be turned into humanoid robots which walk the streets at any time, especially as the humanoid robots are mass marketed, which is soon. And so I say to Gemini, I do not agree with the complexity or enormous concerns. It is not such an enormous and complex task for an AI to copy the daily words of any one of these people, so multiply it by a few hundred. If Trump is concerned about no-speak or bad-speak utterances experimented with by students, he can give instructions for his own censorship algorithm, and its decisions would add to their political science education. 1001, 1002. You raise a valid point that modern large language models, the technology that would power the Genesis AIs, are highly proficient at replicating political speech and style. However, the complexity concern arises not from the ability to imitate a single person, but from the demands of a real-time, multi-agent political simulation that aims for educational or research value. Here's a breakdown of why the complexity is still a major factor and an assessment of the proposed censorship algorithm. The complexity of political simulation AI. The task is not simply generating 535 speeches, 435 representatives, 100 senators daily, but simulating the interactions between them, which introduces a level of computational and systemic complexity far beyond a single multiplication of single agent tasks. If an AI agent or Senator A needs to generate a speech, it's one calculation based on his programmed cognitive style and the issue at hand. Complex task. A simulation of 535 agents, where each must react to the other's proposal, requires not just 535 independent operations, but potentially n squared or n cubed calculations per legislative cycle, where n equals 535. This necessitates a supercomputing infrastructure, which is precisely what the real Genesis mission is envisaged to provide. An effective educational simulation must accurately reflect the real constraints of the U.S. political system, which requires far more than copying words. The AI must incorporate coalition dynamics, pork earmark trading, policy fidelity, etc., etc. The deep level of relational modeling makes the task enormous in terms of data management, computational load, and algorithmic refinement, even for advanced LLMs. Okay, and this is on the censorship algorithm. Otherwise, the simulation would lose credibility and perceived as a state-sponsored tool for political training or propaganda rather than objective scientific inquiry.
I can promise you this: I will always tell you the truth.
The Washington Post and other fact checkers have found that Donald Trump tells more lies and falsehoods than any president in either party in history. The count is over 20,000.